Is that working yet? There we go.
On Sunday morning, January 21, 1776, at a church in Woodstock, Virginia, the Reverend Peter Gabriel Muhlenberg brought his sermon to a dramatic and unexpected crescendo. His text was taken from the book of Ecclesiastes. The Bible tells us there is a time for all things, a time to preach and a time to pray. But the time for me to preach has passed away. And there is a time to fight, and that time has now come. On July the 4th, 1776, 236 years ago this day, the Declaration of Independence was promulgated. It was written largely by Thomas Jefferson, third President of the United States of America. He wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." And on he went, one by one, accounting for the evils committed by George III, the King of England. And because of these travesties, he concludes, we therefore publish and declare that these united colonies are free and independent states, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. The 56 signers of the Declaration knew that in the eyes of George III, this was an act of treason, punishable by death. And still they said, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And they signed. 5 were captured and tortured before they died. At least 12 had their homes ransacked and burned. Wives and children were imprisoned, and some died. John Witherspoon, president of the College of New Jersey, now we know as Princeton, and James Madison's teacher fled with his family. The British troops occupied the buildings and burned his library. We sit here this very morning, the direct beneficiaries of men from Massachusetts, Connecticut, Virginia, South Carolina, and other colonies who were willing to give their blood and their lives for the principle of liberty. They did not just believe philosophically in liberty. They pledged their lives for liberty. Some things are worth repeating lest they be lost or forgotten in our busy world of technology. We regularly and steadfastly repeat the Apostles' Creed and the Nicene Creed. Why? So that we will not let Christian doctrine and prayer escape our attention and notice. The same thing is true about historical events and teachings contained in historical documents like the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. My sweet wife Donna sometimes has made unsolicited comments about some of my 4th of July speeches. She says they are repetitive. I do not deny that they are repetitive. But neither do I apologize. They may be repetitive, but 4th of July speeches are supposed to be repetitive. They are about men and principles and documents. They are about things we need to know about. They are about things we need to remember. We live in a world of television, computers, iPhones, iPads, Twitter, Facebook, and Skyping. A lot of people are talking a lot on these gadgets, mostly about nothing. I am reminded of David McCullough, the great biographer of John Adams. He also wrote the book 1776. In a television interview, he said the most important thing to be learned from his books is that we Americans should have knowledge about American history, about the Constitution, what it says, what it means. He pointed out that the best universities in America, such as Harvard and Stanford and Yale, there is no requirement to take one single course in American history. No wonder that in a Roper survey of graduating seniors from 55 of our top universities, more students named Ulysses S. Grant than George Washington as the commander of American forces at Yorktown, Virginia, at the surrender of Cornwallis. So, today, I will talk about some men who were committed to principle, who were willing to give their lives for principle, who believed in America. They knew what America stands for. They did not speak in soft, smooth, silky words about America's weaknesses and shortcomings as President Obama does. Courageously, they spoke and committed themselves as men who believe in America and what she stands for. Vignette. Nathan Hale. Nathan Hale was a martyr soldier of the American Revolution, born in Coventry, Connecticut on June 6, 1755. He was a bit over 21 years of age when he was hanged by General William Howe, the English general in charge, hanged as a spy in New York City on September 22, 1776. Nathan had come from a large family of children. He had 11 brothers and sisters. He was the 6th child. His father was a successful farmer, and he sent Nathan, along with his brother Enoch, to Yale. Nathan did well academically, and he was among the 13 scholars of highest rank in his class. When he graduated from Yale, he became a teacher in the public schools. But when he heard the news of Lexington and Concord, he is reported to have said, "Let us march immediately and never lay down our arms until we obtain independence." He was then commissioned a first lieutenant in the 7th Connecticut Regiment. George Washington and his troops were facing severe adversity. He keenly needed some information concerning enemy plans. He accordingly asked one of his commanders to ask for volunteers among his troops, or a volunteer among his troops, who would work his way into the English lines and bring back tactical information which could be relied upon. Colonel Knowlton, commander of one of the Connecticut regiments, called a number of officers together and told them of General Washington's request. It is reported that the appeal given by Colonel Knowlton to his officers was received in dead silence. Colonel Knowlton is said to have personally addressed a non-commissioned officer, an old Frenchman who had been a soldier a long time. The old soldier responded, "I am willing to be shot, but not hung." Knowlton felt he must make his report a failure to General Washington. Nathan Hale, his youngest captain, broke the silence and said, "I will undertake it." Hale disguised himself as a schoolmaster. He took his college diploma from Yale with him, and he went forth into New York. He had gone to New York by boat, and he directed the boatman to return for a specific time, which was a fixed time. He returned on a fixed day and was awaiting his boat, which appeared, and he made a signal from the shore to the boat. He had been mistaken.